Thanks very much for the lovely introduction. As you can see, I'm vertically challenged and I just need to push it down a bit further. Thank you, NDY, and also Joss for inviting me to speak today. It's just wonderful to celebrate with everybody International Women's Day, and also Carolyn and Joanna to share the panel with you today is also really exciting for me too. I'd also like to thank the elders and emerging leaders of the Kulin Nation. So where we are today, where the Yarra River, the Maribyrnong River enters into Port Phillip Bay, is a really important place for the Kulin Nation. This is an area where they came together to trade, to actually arrange marriages, and it was really important for their food and also economic prosperity. And if you ever get an opportunity to go on country with elders, they'll share their cultural knowledge with you. And what really resonates with me is that they don't look at environment, societal needs, and economic prosperity separately. It's actually a very tightly integrated knowledge set, which we can learn a lot from. And actually, this approach is the foundation of what I want to talk to you about today. I have a PowerPoint presentation, and being a scientist, I know that freaks a lot of people out. They're probably going to expect tables, graphs, and it's far too early on a Friday morning to do that, and I haven't had enough espressos to do that either, so I'm not going to do that to you. I just want to explain the Commissioner for Environmental Sustainability is an independent and impartial office. Dr. Gillian Sparks is the Commissioner, and she's wonderful if you get to meet her. She has a background actually in mining and waste, and she was elected by the bipartisan support to be a Commissioner, and this is her second term. And we do a lot of the state of reporting, so state of the Yarra, state of the environment, state of the forests and so on. It's quite an exciting office. There's only 8 of us, and we work in a very cross-functional way to ensure that our reports have a lot of punch. And our reports also get tabled in parliaments with recommendations to which the Minister for Environment needs to respond to. So it's not just doing reports for report's sake, but actually trying to change the system to improve what's currently occurring. So this year's themes, Each for Equal, is very important. And with my personal and sustainability lens, equality goes beyond gender for me. It goes to societal equality. It means that no one should be living in poverty. We should all have equal rights to education, to food, a place to live, housing, and to feel protected and safe. It's also the year for the Sustainable Development Goals, call to action. And just very quickly, has anyone heard of or seen about the SDGs? Yep, few people, great. Does anybody know what they are or how they're implemented? One person up the back. Another person over here. Great, fantastic. So just to give a quick background, the Sustainable Development Goals were created by the United Nations. So it's a pre-processed framework and tool to understand the interactions between society, economics, the natural environment, politics, and also the judicial system as well. I think it's a great framework. It's not a perfect framework, but I think it's a great framework because you can start to see the interactions between these elements and how these actually play out in our society. Specifically, you'll see that goal number 5 is gender equality, which is today's theme, and so therefore sustainability and equality go hand in hand for me. So I'm just going to share with you briefly why I like this systems mindset to doing sustainability. Over the past 3 to 4 years, we've experienced quite a lot of drought, which have contributed to the fires that we saw over this summer season. And I promise that's as depressing as my presentation will be. But up until this summer, when things got quite real with climate change, when I used to tell people about what I do outside of the sustainability sector, I could see their body language change a little bit, and they had this look come over their face, and I knew that they were thinking this. That I just go around being a hippie, trust fund hippie or something, drinking my matcha almond milk lattes and telling everyone to love the environment. And actually quite a few times, people who would joke around with me would actually verbally say, oh, you're just a hippie, you're just a greenie. And then the discussion got even more interesting when we dived deep into actually what's my expertise. And I'm actually a marine scientist, and you could see that they thought I did this all day long. So I just want to say that I don't actually need flotation devices to stand up in water. And although, yes, it would be lovely to work with dolphins all day, dolphins is just one species in a huge marine ecosystem, and they're a charismatic species, and I understand they're quite smart and social. But my interest goes a little bit more beyond just dolphins. And the reality of my job was more like this. So this is, sorry, it's a bit blurry, but this is me diving in Port Phillip Bay in the middle of winter, 18 metres down, it's 9 degrees. I'm wearing a 7 mil wetsuit with a lot of weights to keep me down. It's quite choppy at 7 a.m. and I had to do some counting and recording of data. So in my hand you'll see a reel, it's 200 metres in length. What you do is you set it out and then you swim along the length of that reel, and 1 metre each side you have a recording board. You have to take down which fish you see, if you see lobsters, crabs, etc., the types of seaweed, and you have to do that a few times up and down to ensure you've got all the data. You come up and then you have to take a break for a few minutes so you don't get the bends, and then you go back in. So by midday on that day, we had done 3 dives by lunchtime. It was cold, we were a little bit hypothermic by the time we got back to shore, but it's a lot of fun. And through this role, it really taught me that we need to think about the natural environment in a systems mindset. So in the marine environment, there's a lot of inputs: carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, fresh water, as well as the pollutants that we create as humans. The outputs are things like fish, crabs, things that we eat, also carbon absorption, protection of the coast from coastal erosion. So it's really important to consider inputs and outputs in part of the system, and then also as a society, how are we interacting with that system and how does that change all the processes? So with a sustainability lens, it's a circular process, it's not a linear. And how we impact that process will also mean how much is available to us in the future to eat, for protection and for fresh air and fresh water services. And I think to be a sustainability leader, you need to have that systems mindset. A lot of scientists dive deep into the passion project area, which is great, but they have a difficult time, and I mean this respectfully, coming back up. And that's sort of what I bring to the table. As a marine scientist too, there's quite often a lot of times where I've been the only female on the dive boat. So similar to what Carolyn was saying, the only female at the dinner table. Once down in Tasmania, I had to do a 4-day dive off the coast of Maria Island to do a whole bunch of data collection, and I was the only female. But I didn't think about it until the head of the dive research project came up to me and said, "You may not want to come out on top of the deck first thing in the morning." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, the guys just might, be, using the ocean to do things. And I'm like, okay. Just didn't ask questions. Just, I stayed in my cabin until a little bit later on in the morning. So yeah, for me as well, I don't think that I'm the only female there. I just feel like I'm part of the group and part of the conversation. I also want to debug the myth that sustainability is purely just about the natural environment. It actually is how economics, social values and the natural environment interacts together, and it's very much a long-term view. So where does this all come together? So if I apply the SDGs framework to my thinking and to the work that I do, and specifically to gender equality, there are different elements. So for gender equality itself, yes, it's an important element, and there's aspects to it that we need to improve, things that we're doing well, but it can be improved. But also there's other elements that will influence whether we get to gender equality. And I've circled a few of these behind me. So it's things like quality education, no poverty, ensuring good health and wellbeing, and also opportunities for women in the workplace too, through decent work and economic growth. And so you can see that gender equality is influenced by other inputs, but also has a lot of outputs too that can benefit society. So I personally think that as society, we have the power to create that change. Even though I work in government, I don't think we need to wait for government to have those incentives for us to create that change. And I think we also need to move away from having a conversation that's in binary opposition to each other. It's the space in the middle where the solutions come. And I think having those open and transparent conversations in the middle will actually allow us to move towards greater gender equality and also equality just generally. Thank you very much.